How to write body paragraphs for argumentative essays. Before we move on, if you are unfamiliar with the skills of deconstructing the prompt and writing an introduction paragraph, go ahead and view those videos now, which you can find links to in the description below. If you know those skills, then you can continue watching this video. Now, what is a paragraph? If you're thinking 5 or more sentences, stop thinking that now, because that is not the correct definition. The correct definition of a paragraph is a set of sentences dealing with the same central idea. So a paragraph is a set of sentences that have the same idea running through them. If you still have the same idea being discussed, then you continue in the paragraph. So it could be less than 5 sentences, it could be more than 5 sentences, as long as it takes to continue discussing the same central idea. Now, why should we even care about writing good paragraphs? Well, for multiple reasons. First, it's very good for communicating clearly, getting your point across. 2, if you want to inform people, or persuade people, or entertain people. Now we are going to look at how to write to persuade people, which is argumentative writing. Now, before we move on, if you are unfamiliar with claims and arguments, you need to understand those before you can fully understand what argumentative writing is. So if you are familiar with what claims and arguments are, continue watching. If you are unfamiliar, then you can watch my video on what is an argument by clicking on the link in the description below. So we mentioned that a paragraph is a set of sentences dealing with the same central idea. So where does that idea come from? Well, it comes from your answer to the prompt, and this answer is in the thesis statement in your introduction paragraph. So if you have written an introduction paragraph, your thesis statement has multiple points. Each point becomes the central idea of a body paragraph. Now, this is paragraph structure, basic paragraph structure. This is a one-chunk body paragraph. If you have 2 sets of concrete details and commentaries, that is a 2-chunk body paragraph. A good way to write argumentatively is to use 2-chunk body paragraphs. Now, the way they work is a little bit different than informational writing. First, the topic sentence states your claim. It's not simply a topic or an idea, but it's a claim for your argument. 2, the concrete detail states evidence for your claim, so you are supporting your claim by citing evidence. The first commentary explains how the evidence supports your claim. Now, when you get into the second chunk, the concrete detail and commentary work a little bit differently when you're writing argumentatively. This concrete detail states a counterclaim to your argument, so somebody else's argument against yours. You state a claim against your claim. And the commentary here explains why the counterclaim is not as strong or not supported. And we'll look at that in more detail in a moment. And the concluding sentence restates why your claim is strong. The topic sentence should state the claim, be clear, and be direct. Because when you are making an argument, you want to be as clear as possible in order to persuade your readers, in order to convince them of what you think and believe. The first concrete detail supports your claim. It should give evidence. Evidence can be one of many things. It can be facts, citations, paraphrases, examples, or illustrations. Any one of these can support your claim, and that works as evidence. The first commentary makes a comment on the evidence by explaining how the evidence supports your claim. You can usually start off this sentence with "this shows" or "this means," because the evidence will show why your claim is strong if you're using good evidence. But it needs an explanation to make that clear to your readers. And avoid logical fallacies. These are mistakes in argumentation. If you want to know more about these, there will be a link in the description below to a playlist on logical fallacies, or you can wait until the end of the video and the playlist will be there. Now, your second concrete detail lists a counterclaim or a counter-argument to yours, meaning these are claims and arguments against your argument. Any person making a good argument should show that they are aware of reasons why people don't agree with them and address those reasons. Those are the counterclaims and counter-arguments. When you address these, and that you show that they're not as strong as your argument, it makes your argument all the more convincing for your readers. So whenever you make arguments, it's good to list the counterclaims and counter-arguments to yours. It shows that you know what you're arguing about. Now, counterclaims can be imagined or listed. Imagined here doesn't mean made up. It means that you imagine why a person may disagree with you. This happens when you are using sources to write your argumentative essay, and in those sources you can't find counter-arguments to yours. You'll have to think about why some people may disagree with your position, and that's what imagined means here. You're imagining why people may disagree with you. So if that's the case, you'll start off this sentence by saying some people may argue, and you'll explain their arguments. Many times, though, when you are reading sources to write an essay, you'll find listed counterclaims and counter-arguments, meaning other people's arguments against your side, your position, will be listed. And if that's the case, you'll have to cite their counterclaims, and then in the next sentence, the commentary, you'll argue against the counterclaim or counter-argument by explaining how that counterclaim or counter-argument is unsupported or not as strong as yours. And if it's unsupported, you'll have to explain why their evidence is not strong, or maybe they have made a fallacious argument. In that case, it will be good to know logical fallacies. And the concluding sentence should restate why your claim is stronger than the counterclaim. Try to start it off with so, therefore, or as a result. On the bottom, there's an example of how you may start an argumentative concluding sentence. You'll start off by saying, well, some may claim X, which is the counterclaim to yours. Then you'll list your argument. So that way it wraps up your argumentative body paragraph nicely. So you're going to see examples of argumentative body paragraphs. Here is a prompt that students were asked to respond to. You can hit pause and read it, then continue watching. Okay, as you remember from the skill of deconstructing the prompt, the actual prompt is on the bottom, which says write an essay in which you argue whether the military should use drones or not. Give good reasons for your argument. Cite evidence to support your answer. Make a clear and understandable argument. So in short, students are being asked to argue whether or not the military should use drones. Students have the ability, when they're making argumentative paragraphs, to choose a side. They can agree or they can disagree. They can argue that the military should use drones, or they can argue they should not. Here's an example introduction paragraph to one side of the argument. Here was the student's thesis statement where they answered the prompt. So this student said the military should use drones and gave 2 reasons. He said because they are precise and they can get over dangerous areas. We'll look at his body paragraph for the second point, that they can get over dangerous areas. So here's an example argumentative body paragraph. Notice the student started his topic sentence by saying another reason, because this is the second point that he's discussing. He says another reason the military should use drones is because they can use drones to fly over dangerous areas. So he listed his claim, which is the overall idea for this paragraph. Then, he supports his claim by citing evidence from the text. He says in the article, It says their cameras and radar devices track people and vehicles. Drones check for hidden bombs. And he cited the author's last name, the article title, and the page number. Then, he explains his evidence. He says these bombs, which can put the lives of soldiers in danger, can be identified without risk to the lives of soldiers. So by putting this commentary, he's made his argument that soldiers' lives are kept out of risk, are kept out of harm's way when the military uses drones. Then he lists a counter argument. He says some people may argue that the drones may get spotted by terrorists and get taken down. So that's a counter argument to his. But then, in the commentary, he explains why that is not a strong argument. He says when the drones are taken down, it does not result in the death of soldiers. So again, his point stands. So he wraps up in his concluding sentence. So while people may argue that these drones can be taken down, they are still able to fly over dangerous areas and carry out their missions. This is a good example of an argumentative body paragraph. Now, there are two sides to this argument. Let's take a look at what another student said who took the opposite side of the argument. This was the other student's body paragraph. This was his thesis. And notice, he argued that the military should not use drones and also gave two reasons. Because drones can kill civilians and can put people in danger. We will look at the body paragraph he wrote for the first point. Because drones can kill civilians. Here's that body paragraph. He starts off by saying, one reason the military should not use drones is because drones may kill civilians. Again, it goes back to the thesis statement. It's his first point, and now it's become the idea for this body paragraph. So he's made that claim again and listed that one point. He cites evidence to support his claim. He says in the article, it says hundreds of civilians have accidentally been killed or injured by drone strikes. And again, like the first student, he cites the author's last name, the article title, and the page number. Then he explains how the evidence supports his claim. He says these innocent civilians are the reason the military uses drones. So if they end up dying because of the drones, then drones should not be used. So he's made his argument, and now in the next sentence, he addresses counter-argument, people arguing against his view. He says, however, some may argue that drones effectively strike enemies. Then he explains why that's not a strong enough argument. He says, yet the drones can kill people that are nearby. So he points out, okay, they can strike enemies, but they still can kill people that are nearby. His argument still stands. It's still strong. And he wraps up in his concluding sentence by restating why his claim is stronger than the counterclaim. He says, even though drones kill bad people, they can also kill innocent civilians. And that's another example of a good argumentative body paragraph. So again, here's the structure. Has 6 parts. There is some similarity between this structure and informational body paragraph structure, but there are a little bit of differences that are important that you need to know about. It's a 2-chunk body paragraph. The first chunk you make your argument, the second chunk you address counterclaims and counter-arguments. Trivia. The word argument is a Latin word which means to make clear or to prove. Because an argument clearly shows what one person thinks and believes, and it explains why. Just like you saw with the 2 examples of body paragraphs. The students made their arguments, you saw what they thought and believed, and they also explained why they thought and believed what they did. Click here for more videos on writing. Thanks for watching. Until next time.